whereas California teachers have protected and given their lives for the students. And whereas California teachers advocated for and currently provide the public education all students deserve. And whereas California teachers continue to influence us long after our school days are only memories. And whereas California owes much of its success to its public schools, colleges, and universities that produce scholars, thinkers, and educated workforce. And whereas the theme of the 40th Annual California Day of the Teacher on May 11th is California's teachers, at the heart of communities, power of our future. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Healdsburg Unified School Board of Trustees hereby acknowledges the contributions of all dedicated teachers and do hereby proclaim May 11th, 2022 as California's Day of the Teacher.
Thank you. Are there any comments from other board members?
I think in the past we have donated books. Is that?
Yes, and they are actually on order. I've talked to the librarians, and we will have a book on behalf of the Board of Trustees, and I will have a cards for both the teachers and for the classified staff, and I'll have them ready for you guys before May 11th, and I'll actually have that you come in and sign them
Excellent.
this year.
Thank you.
And I'll stay tuned, and I'll have them ready for you guys soon.
I mean, it's a small token of appreciation, but I think it's appropriate and a really nice way to recognize the teachers through the books donated to the libraries on each campus.
It's a very nice tradition, and when I emailed the librarians, they really think that's a great tradition that that they appreciate that you would like to continue with. So, thank you.
So this will be a roll call vote.
This is a roll call
We
vote.
need a
First we need
motion
a
and a
motion to adopt the California Day of the Teacher.
I move to adopt the May 11th as the California Day of the Teacher.
Second.
Roll call, please.
All right, I'll start with student trustee Annie.
Aye.
All right. Trustee Abromo Flores.
Aye.
Trustee Del Rey.
Aye.
Trustee Lopez.
Aye.
And President Potmasol.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And while you're there, Mr. Superintendent, 11.2C, inter-district attendance.
Oh, no, don't skip the classified.
Oh,
yeah.
sugar.
Yeah.
Thank you. I already checked it. I'm looking at the wrong one. I apologize. I truly do. Classified School Employee Week.
Yeah, so it's interesting. The Day of the Teacher and classified as the week. We will be celebrating them both throughout the week. But the class, it's actually fitting we had the transportation department here today, and what we talked about and how they serve they're the first faces the kids see in the morning. They step up in times of emergency. And the same can be said for the rest of our classified employees. You know, during the deep pandemic, it was the custodians who were coming onto campus and there was never a blip in service. They were cleaning to make sure it was open for teachers to come and get stuff so they could teach remotely, et cetera. They do a lot of the behind the scenes work that make learning and teaching possible. And without them, school just wouldn't happen. So we're really indebted to them and very grateful for the services that they provide and for the amazing attitudes and the hard work and their work ethic that they have. So this is a resolution for the week. Mike, would you like someone to read the full resolution here?
I would ask Trustee Del Rey if she would. She hasn't practiced either.
Am I on? Classified School Employees Week. Whereas all schools in the Healdsburg Unified School District shall annually observe the third full week in May in recognition of classified school employees and the contributions they make to the educational community. And whereas classified school employees provide valuable services to the schools and students of the Healdsburg schools. And whereas classified school employees contribute to the establishment and promotion of a positive instructional environment. And whereas classified school employees play a vital role in providing for the welfare and safety of Healdsburg Schools students. And whereas classified school employees employed by the Healdsburg Unified School District strive for excellence in all areas relative to the educational community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Healdsburg Unified School District Board of Trustees hereby recognize and wish to honor the contribution of the classified school employees to quality education in the state of California and in the Healdsburg schools, and proclaim May 15th to May 21st, 2022 as Classified School Employees Week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
And I move that we approve the resolution.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Please call for the vote.
All right. Student trustee Peterson,
Aye.
trustee Romo Flores,
Aye.
trustee Del Rey, trustee Lopez,
Aye.
and President Palmasul.
Aye.
Thank you. I also want you to know they will also receive a book, and they will also receive the teachers and the classified staff will also receive a special treat each week for in honor of their special day. So just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
So we won't be surprising them because they're all listening. No, no, that's great that we're doing
They
that.
expect it.
That's
Yeah.
right.
They do. Thank you. Now, let's talk about inter-district attendance.
Yes. So last month we talked about enrollment, and I posed the question, should we open this conversation back up about inter-district transfers in the Healdsburg Unified School District? So I'm bringing it back to you tonight for some general discussion, and sort of the process I have envisioned is if it pleases you at the end of the discussion today, you can indicate that we could come back with a draft policy for next month and then eventually pass it in June. So that'd be kind of the strategy here. So we can go, oh, I have the clicker. I was waiting for someone to click. There we go. All right, so just a quick history. We basically eliminated inter-district transfers after becoming a basic aid district in 2009. Basic aid means we are funded by community local property taxes. We now, instead of calling it basic aid, call it community funded. At that point, because it was money coming straight from the taxpayers of Healdsburg and not a lot of extra money coming from the state, the decision was made to keep the taxpayers' Healdsburg money focused on Healdsburg students. And we did not allow inter-district transfers by policy. There are a few notable exceptions like children of employees and other mitigating factors that through the years there's been some exceptions made, but those are all very clearly delineated in our policy. In 2018, we started talking about the possibility of opening up again in general to inter-district transfers, but then fires started happening in Sonoma County and the pandemic happened and the whole conversation just kind of got put on hold. Ironically, the meeting we were going to talk about it got canceled because of flooding. So we just had a lot of things happen that kind of railroaded this conversation.
And Chris, I would add, and wasn't just the natural disasters, but it was the unknown impact those were going to have on our budget.
What was the financial impact, really? Yeah, and they were. I will say, thankfully, a year and a half after the Tubbs fire, we were able to get money from the state that had impacted our property taxes. We never actually got any money from the Kincaid fire. I'm actually last week was on the phone with or on Zoom with Senator McGuire's staff alongside Alexander Valley Superintendent and lobbying for the backfill monies from the Kincaid fire still to come back to us. So there are financial impacts to all those, and that's why we put it on hold. I explained this just now, so I'm not going to go over this slide too much. But again, the philosophy was Healdsburg money being spent on Healdsburg students. Financial obligations. So this shows you where we are and kind of how deep into community funded status. Average spending last year in the state per student was around $14,000 per student. In Sonoma County, it was just slightly higher at $14,400. We were at about $18,800 per student, so above your average district who's not funded by local property taxes. We will not, barring some major weird thing happening, we're not going to fall out of community funded status. There are districts that do go back and forth because they're right on the cusp. It's really confusing for their CBOs every year. So We will not be falling out of basic aid status. So why would we change? School size, we talked about this a little bit last month. I believe there's a point where we become too small, especially in the secondary schools where programs become hard to justify and we have to cut sections and things like that. It's not always just financial, but it becomes hard to justify spending $25,000 on a class of 3 or 4 kids. And so keeping an optimal number of students in our secondary schools especially, I think, is something that will help us keep programs and opportunities for our kids alive, and also creates more lively culture and opportunities for our kids on the campus. And so I've posited these numbers as sort of our optimal numbers for the 2 campuses. Certainly could be a little bit different, but that is the focus of the conversation today. We certainly could also allow transfers into the elementary schools, but as we talked about last month, there are a lot of elementary students who are not in they're our resident students, but choose to go other places. And I would really like to focus on trying to bring some of those kids back into our schools, maybe before we get too deep into interdistrict transfers into the elementaries. So,
And Chris, to be clear, if and when we decide to bring in interdistrict transfers, we do not get any additional funding for those students.
not $1. Yeah. So that is part of the conversation, and I'm going to allude to that more as we go on.
Can you, the high school and the junior high enrollment today?
High school's 540. Chris, do you know yours off the top of your head? 280. Yeah. So you see declining enrollment. This is what we talked about last month. We are down to about 1,275 students in the district. Since I've been superintendent, it's gone down 400 students, right? Pretty steep decline. Yeah. And again, this isn't about me being superintendent. This is about the cost of living in Healdsburg, and families just simply not being able to afford it. So here's a hypothetical. If we were going to do this, we could. This is how it works in other places. Alexander Valley, for instance, has set limits to their class size, and then they see how many resident students there are, continuing students, and then they have X amount of seats open and they hold a lottery. We would do the same thing. So my hypothetical example to you is using next year's projected freshman enrollment. So the first step would be to set a class size limit. So in high schools, it's not uncommon to have class sizes of 30 to 32 in most comprehensive high schools, even 34, honestly, if you go to schools in Santa Rosa. We don't usually have that. I mean, there's going to be ebbs and flows because of scheduling, but on average, class size pretty low in Healdsburg. A nice number, I think, would be saying 26, 27 students in your core classes. So if we were to set that as a limit, using next year's enrollment projection, we currently have 120 students projected for 9th grade coming into Healdsburg High next year. Using English as an example, that's the big core class freshman year. Obviously, they take math and science, but those get a little harder to delineate because on the science side, it's ag and ag biology and biology. And there's plenty of sections, and then on the math side, it depends on the student's level of math and where they get placed. But we could, using English as the barometer, you see we currently have 5 sections of English slated, which would be for those 120 students an average of 24 students per section. So if we were to set a limit of 27, we would have 135 seats total available, meaning we would have 15 seats available for potential interdistrict transfers in the freshman class. That would be my proposed method in terms of, we would talk about what the limit is, but it's a very simple mathematical formula every year that we could use to find the number of open seats we have, fill those seats, and we're not creating more sections, so we're not creating more dollars spent as a result of having those kids because, again, they are not bringing us any revenue. There would be some limits to this. If a student needed a special program, there would, we were not going to say just because you need a special program you can't come, but if our program is impacted in terms of it's already full, then you wouldn't be eligible to come because we couldn't serve you. So there's different limits to that and how that works.
And what would be an example?
An example potentially could be special ed or even a student who would need English language development depending on class sizes in the program. So there are limits that you have to set just so you don't impact programs that already are at capacity. ELD honestly is a bad example because it's not a capacity, but yeah. So those would be the this would be the method I think that we could use to compute it. I will be honest, I looked very cursorily through the rest of the secondary classes, 6-12, and I didn't see a lot of room. Like 15 was the biggest number that could be generated at the freshman level. We might be able to generate, if we were going to use 27 as a limit, we might be able to generate 3-4 seats in a couple other classes. So we're not talking dramatically big numbers if we were to do this next year using the proposed method. And this would all be memorialized in policy in terms of how we do this. So next year, if we were to open up, we might simply be looking at 20, 25 students in the entire district that we would be bringing in as transfers.
What is the current class size at we'll take the high school or the ninth grade?
I don't know. Well, next year it would be 24 students in English for the freshmen, right? I don't know the average class size off the top of my head currently at the high school.
It really varies between elective courses, and Annie can speak to it. She probably has some courses where there's 29 students in a class and other classes where there's 13. So it really depends on how many students. The upper division classes tend to be smaller, right? Where you have to take a prerequisite course to get to it, whereas ninth grade English, they all take it. So those tend to be a little larger.
Thank you.
Yeah, Annie, did you want to comment at all?
I would just definitely agree with that. Like, Mr. V was in there the other day, but the calculus class has 9 kids in it.
Yeah.
So Mr. V always jokes like, "Oh, we lose 2 kids for tennis, and there's a third of our class." But like, I don't know what the biggest class I'd be in. Maybe like science. I think we have like a full class, probably like 27 kids or something. So it's like, it varies.
It depends. Yeah. Calculus is actually up for next year. There's a lot of juniors in pre-calc coming up. So it's going to be more like 18, which is good.
That.
Yeah.
So, Chris, if you had said in a prior slide, like an ideal population at the high school, 550 to 600, if you divide 600 by 4, is that 125? No, that's 500. Sorry. Help me with my math.
600 by 4 is 150 each, right?
150.
Yeah.
So.
But the thing that I want to avoid doing is spending more money because we're bringing transfers in. Right?
Well, no,
yeah.
I'm just trying to look at it from.
Exact multiple angles.
Just,
yeah.
If this is where you think there's the biggest gap, I guess, that we could fill, which I'm surprised because usually we get a bump in ninth grade, right? Usually,
the last few years at the high school, it's not about ninth grade. Every class has had a different enrollment. Like it's been really dramatically different. Like one year it's 150, and then the next year it's 118.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
And it tends to be that way. This is where our staffing levels are at now. So as things evolve, things may change.
Right.
But
things have evolved.
And certainly there will
right?
be a handful of students here and there that I would propose adding. But this was the freshman class was the best example because there was going to be the most seats available.
Would there be a scenario where I don't know if this is the case, I'm just doing hypothetical, but if there was like an AP class that was really desired by our students and we can accommodate all of them, would there be, I would hate to not be able to accommodate our local students in those classes.
We haven't had, we've had some full AP classes and we just pay teachers overage at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. So
we'd be able to accommodate.
Yeah, if anything, just speaking really frankly and honestly, I think it would help. So for example, we're not going to be offering AP biology next year, and we've done a flip-flop where one year we offer AP bio and the next year we offer AP environmental science. So this is the AP environmental science year. We didn't have enough signups for AP bio. Part of that, just honestly, is the kids don't know who the teacher was going to be, right? Mr. McDowell taught that, and a lot of the advanced courses are chosen by students not only because of subject matter, but because of teacher expertise. So, if anything, those AP classes, AP World, maybe the 10th grade history class tends to be very popular, so we'd have to watch that. But generally, the 11th and 12th grade would welcome additional students, and AP Stats is a great example. Or, pardon me, AP Calc. Yeah.
I guess that would be my only concern is making sure we can accommodate all students and
agreed.
desired classes.
I don't think it would be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Chris, are we just talking about interdistrict for the high school level? Is that what's
And junior
And
high.
junior
That's
high?
where I would propose we start. We've worked hard actually to make class size small at the elementary, and I'd say let's keep it that way for a little bit. And we have some work to do in terms of envisioning the elementary school reconfiguration that we brought to you after we decided to close the charter. And so I think right now it makes most sense in terms of the too small argument to really focus on the secondary schools. So,
And to be clear, you're proposing this sort of equation for every grade.
I will
You would
propose it for
kinda-
the district, but I don't see us doing it. We'll be careful how we set the limits. So
I'm open to inter-district attendance because clearly, like, we've seen the decline of students. If we commit to class size limits, but I personally don't believe that it's due to the cost of living, because the number of subsidized housing units in Healdsburg have increased, right? So I think we have to call it out. It's white flight. Like, students are deciding, families are choosing to leave our district. I also don't agree with the process. I don't think the lottery process would be ideal. To me, I think we should consider families who are working in Healdsburg
that's the next
first
slide.
As a priority. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, we can skip this one, but this is basically what we've been talking about. I want to be extremely cautious to protect financial viability and availability of services to the kids in the community. We'll do it slowly, and we'll set capacities, fill empty seats. So, criteria preferences. So we can set preferences for inter-district transfer. We actually already have preferences. Well, we have they're not even preferences, they're exclusive, the reasons why you can have an inter-district transfer. So some of these already exist. These are examples. We can choose to implement others. We do have to be careful, though. You cannot have a preference given that is in some way discriminatory towards a specific group of people. So that said, I think there's one in there. Karen, did we include the one parents? Yeah, children of parents employed within the district boundaries is the second bullet. So that's one that I think would be that we could use. It's not. I've actually vetted that one with an attorney that you're not discriminating against a class of people. Just anybody who has a job in the district boundaries would be on the preferred list and would get first priority if there was a lottery or before a lottery. So.
And then what would happen if that parent changed jobs, went out?
That, over the course of their student's term, they're going to have to apply for an inter transfer every year. Mm-hmm. That said, I would also be looking at siblings who attend the schools. So once they're in, you probably would end up keeping them. We've worked with families who've moved out of the district because they couldn't afford it, and allowed them to at least continue a year, sometimes longer, because they're trying to get back. And so there's always a little bit of wiggle within the policy, but this is really about getting people in and how you move forward. Also bears note that once you become a junior in high school, you don't need you have to do your inter-district transfer, but we can't really deny it. You by law have a right to finish out high school at the high school that you've been at for the first 2 years. So these are just some suggestions. I will be working to look at other districts who do this and with our attorney to make sure we're not doing anything that's, one thing I actually talked about with people, because there were a number of people in the community who had an interest in this, was if we would potentially allow students who had gone to any school in our district boundaries. It could be a private school, it could be one of the public schools, Alexander Valley or Westside. That was clearly discriminatory because of the ability to, agency to be able to get your kid to transfer, B, to be able to afford a private school, and then C, even to have the means to transport your student out to these schools that are out in the outskirts of town. So that's not something we could do. And I think it bears saying because we will be asked that. That is something that clearly legally is not permissible in our policy.
So I'm clear, if my son went to either a private or parochial school, even though I lived here, I don't live here, I live in Windsor, but they're going to one of the schools, and I want them to go to the high school or the junior high school, the answer would be no, you have to go into.
Yeah, you'd be you would get no preference. So we'd have to come up with a system for, maybe the people with when I was at Kalikameka Language Academy, we had to do a lottery. And The way we did preferences, you did a lottery with the people who got points through preferences first. Took those kids, and if there were any seats left, you would do the rest. Or you could do it by you get your name in there that many more times. There's different ways to do it, but it has to be, depending on numbers, it has to be random. So, but you would get no preference in terms of admission because we can't, because it's a private school. Yeah.
So there would still be a lottery if
Potentially.
there was a situation where, for example, we were looking for 15 kids to start freshmen, but we had 20 apply.
Yeah.
Then we have to go to a lottery.
Right.
If we have 15 or less, no lottery.
Right. Exactly. I actually anticipate we'll have lottery right away.
And are you saying that these sorts of criteria would just be sort of yes or no? Like you aren't even in the...
If we're in a lottery situation, basically we would say if you don't have one of these, you probably aren't coming, so.
So if
What-
we
when-
have 20 students that enrolled, but we only have 15 spots, and they meet all this criteria.
You'd
Yeah,
have to meet
the
the
15,
criteria. in
they would
order
all
to
need to
apply.
meet the criteria
Right.
before they're even in the pool.
Exactly.
Just check it, okay. So,
Thank you.
yeah, I know there's so many possibilities, right?
Yeah, and there may be more criteria. Some of these are, well, no, I don't think we put the ones that you legally have to put in there, but yeah. So. And it does, another thing, when you're on a transfer, you have to keep your grades up. You have to not have attendance issues. You have to have satisfactory behavior, or your interdistrict transfer can be revoked.
So do
There's a higher standard for those students.
Sorry, do you want feedback from us about prioritizing these, or which of these we think are relevant, or what?
I think that'd be for the next meeting when we actually bring you a draft policy. And you are on the policy committee, so we'll be talking.
Oh,
Yes.
I
So,
am. I'm like, wait, I'm not on this. Oh, yes, I'm on the policy.
certainly, if anybody has any questions or any, individually, if you want to give me feedback, that's fine. But I think looking at what other schools do, and then I think I have a general feeling for where you all are, and we can bring something back that won't have to be tweaked too much. So. And again, timing would be we bring you a draft policy next month, and then potentially approve it in June. It'll be a quick turnaround to do it over the summer to let some transfers in, but then we'll establish a cadence into the future.
And would this apply for August?
Why not?
Because I don't know, do students have to commit to schools or?
No, there's no.
It's not like
it can
that.
work. Yeah.
We're public.
It's not college. Yeah. There's no deposit. Yeah.
All right.
So,
All right.
Just a comment, I think it would be helpful when you bring that proposed policy is to show us all the possibilities. You may say, this is what we recommend, but there are these other things that we considered. I mean, I'm looking at that, if you can go back one, looking at that list, that I think we need to have more discussion, maybe look at it more or whatever, or get more information. I mean, I guess that's what you're asking tonight. But I have to chew on it a while. I guess maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why we do it over 2 meetings.
Right. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll say it's not interdistrict. We're one of the few districts that doesn't allow interdistrict, right? We're an anomaly because of the financial situation that our district is in. So there's lots of policies to look at in the region, and that are both community funded. There are a few community funded that allow interdistricts, but they're more rare. But interdistrict in our region is very, very common. Yeah.
And I have to laugh that you can't just choose the good football players or the good basketball players. Like,
Only baseball.
only the good baseball players. But I mean,
Kidding.
right? I mean,
Yep.
that's
No,
the
you
lottery.
can't give a
that-
preference that's
Exactly.
discriminatory to a certain group, including athletes.
Exactly.
Correct. But it will increase your pool of potential athletes, right? So, yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
No recruiting.
Taking a break.
Not yet. Okay, reports.
Oh, yeah.
HEF, do we have any HEF members? No HEF. Had a report. She's online. Did you submit something?
Robin, would you like to do a report?
Hi, there's no how to report tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was loud. Thanks, Robin.
CSA report? No? And our student trustee, I know she's here.
No, you look great. So my printer died, so I'm gonna read off my Chromebook instead, and it should be emailed out later. I just emailed it to Karen like 10 minutes ago, so technology. Anyway, so April's student trustee report. So we're going to have a school student handbook meeting coming up on May 24th, which I just wanted to mention. It's pretty cool because I know there's definitely opinions have been brought up this year about why our student handbook is how it is. And so they're looking for student voices, and that's pretty cool. Skills USA leaves today for their state competition, and we're wishing them all luck. They're competing in everything from firefighting to baking, and they're going to do great. FFA also had their state conference late last month, and 2 students won proficiencies and 2 students won star awards. So that's pretty cool. Scholarship night is coming up. That is April 27th at the Raven Theater, and all the senior classes definitely excited and just a little bit spooked, so it should be a good night. And April 30th is the car show from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., and that's going to be in the school parking lot, and we're also really excited about that. So if you want to see some cool old cars, the auto kids, obviously we've been working pretty hard for that. And FFA is going to be selling plants, and some other clubs. I think Mayo Club is selling something, so it'll be a good time. That is all.
Any questions? I have a quick question, and
You can come back to the.
well, yeah. I know I've seen it 4 times. It's probably on my calendar, but the FFA parade is when?
That is the HFF-CF parade, I'm assuming you're referencing? Yes. It's not the FFA parade because it's mostly 4-H, but it is happening, and it is going to be the Thursday before Memorial Day. I don't know what the date is, but
26th, I think.
yes.
Okay.
It's on our agenda. We're going to talk about it.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
I probably read
'Cause
that.
we're
That's
usually-
probably where I saw
We're
it.
usually in it. Yeah.
And any reports from the board? Seeing none, let's take a 5-minute break and be back at 7 minutes to 8. Thank you. 11.2D, math adoption.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome back. So this 11.2D is a second read, basically. We were here with the math department chair, Jamie Atwood, and she presented some data, and we also talked about adopting new curriculum for the core courses of integrated math 1, 2, and 3. A little reminder, the junior high adopted CPM last year, so this is their first year of full implementation, and the high school wishes to adopt the CPM curriculum as well. Generally, we'd put this on consent agenda, but in all honesty, I messed up a little bit and forgot to include 11.2E in the first reading, which is coming up pre-calculus. We also need a new pre-calc book, as it says in the cover sheet. So this first one is pretty standard operating procedure, but here to field any questions. One thing you'll notice that there was a little bit of a price saving, change. We saved a couple $1,000s in cleaning up what our current enrollment is. So, we purchased a multi-year license, a 6-year license. And when we first signed the pilot agreement, it was based on numbers this time last year. So we were able to float those numbers down a little bit. And we have kind of a bubble of students taking integrated math 2 next year. So we bought those licenses just for 1 year. So we saved a couple $1,000s in getting real about what our numbers are so we don't over purchase. That's still pricey, but try to squeak and save where we can. So looking for approval of the CPM math curriculum for integrated math 1 through 3.
Any questions? Do we have a motion?
Sure. I move to approve the math curriculum adoption for Healdsburg High School, the CPM.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. See, 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to the high school pre-calculus textbook adoption.
Yeah, so let's take a little time on this. Like I said, this should have been included last month, and I apologize. Part of it was my misunderstanding. We generally have one pre-calculus course each year. We may have two next year. We're looking at numbers right now. There, I think our 35 students signed up for pre-calc right now, which is nice.
Great.
Yeah. Our book that we're using is copyright 1997.
And the problem is?
Todd Sheehy, who now has been teaching on staff for many, many years, learned from the textbook that we continue to hand out. It's calc is a fundamental math, right? Let's just be honest. There's as I put, there are time-tested pre-calculus notions. But it's time. And so the department reviewed the options and came to agreement that the pre-calculus book that is authored by Sullivan, he is one of the longtime authors of the pre-calculus textbook. He has a new a version out with a copyright 2020. There is a new, we went from 1997 to 2020. It's the 11th edition of this text. The nice thing is that it comes with an online feature, which isn't always common in pre-calc. So there's an online feature called My Math Lab, and I included that in the cover sheet. It allows teachers to really drive into, kind of what's holding up students and do more practice and see it in a different way in an online environment. So they can do problems, there's tutorials. So if they're not quite getting the pre-calc through the textbook or the teacher-led instruction, there is now these digital tools that allow for a little bit more of a flexible platform for the students. So since we're adopting curriculum for, the three main courses, 1, 2, and 3, that the majority of our students take, and it was time for a new pre-calc book, we felt that it might be okay to bring this as an action item tonight. So would be looking for approval for the pre-calculus textbook tonight, if that would please the board.
So I have maybe a dumb question, but so integrated math 1, 2, and 3, and then we're back to the old pre-calc. Is that right?
We had that very question, and I asked that literally almost same phrasing to our department. Pre-calc is getting kids ready to take calculus. And while we have seen adjustments in what colleges desire, and we saw a really great letter from BORS, which is the board of, it's basically the office of the UC that makes rules around acceptance. And so we saw a letter from BORS this time last year saying, it is totally fine for students to take integrated math 1, 2, statistics, computer science, pre-calc. 1, 2 are locked in if you're going to apply to a college. If you were going to be applying to a STEM major, if you are going to be in computer science, if you are going to be an engineer, you need pre-calc and calc, and a pretty traditional format. So we offer, again, it's one of the beautiful things about Healdsburg High. We offer many choices. So students for third year math can take financial algebra, they can take statistics, and they can take computer science, in addition to pre-calc and calc. So you are not wrong to ask that question, but there are students who need that preparation. They need to learn logarithms, they need to learn the trigonometry, they need to learn some of the more classical math in order to prepare for college level work.
And pre-calc still includes trigonometry.
It does.
Oh yeah, it's heavy on trig.
Those were always, right?
Very heavy on trig.
So it is, so, okay.
Yep.
So I guess I'm kind of starting to understand that the integrated math is really the 3 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a foundation for everyone.
Yep.
Correct.
And then if you're going into STEM, pre-calc, trig, calc, if you're not going into STEM,
Maybe
have
stats,
these other
financial
options,
algebra.
which really does echo like what Cal State does.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
And even Gus had that in Oregon, where he wasn't measuring in STEM, and he said, I got the best A in math ever in college because he had taken calculus in high school and he didn't have to do anything that rigorous in college. So anyway, okay.
Yeah. So,
Now I think
we
I'm
want to
getting
make
this.
sure that if a student wants to apply to UC Berkeley College of Engineering, that they have what they need to be successful.
And I just wanted to make sure this wasn't something we were doing.
No, this is
This is it.
we're being
This is
kind of
normal.
told.
This is
Yeah,
the way
we're
it is out there.
we're setting
Okay.
kids up to be ready for the
Whatever they
Yeah.
are need to be ready for.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay.
And it's interesting to see these ebbs and flows. That we have 35 students signed up for pre-calc is exciting coming out of the pandemic. So that's a good thing. Yeah.
I have a quick question or request, I guess. Just on your cultural impact, closing the opportunity gap to calculus is critical because calculus functions as a gatekeeper for students pursuing STEM majors and careers. Women and students from historically underrepresented groups are disproportionately impacted by the calculus barrier. And you go on to say high quality textbooks are essential. I would be interested, and I apologize for not having pinpointed that in my brain before this meeting, because I would ask you, I would be interested just knowing the numbers. How many women, how many,
Yeah, again, it
underrepresented.
fluctuates.
I'm sure.
The nice thing is many students choose courses because, as we heard from one of our students, they see themselves in someone else. Super proud that we have a lot of math and science teachers who are female in our district. 2 of our 3 junior high teachers are female right now, and half of the department in the high school. We do make an effort to recruit all students underrepresented, whether that be language status or women, into math, integrated math 1 in the junior high. That's been something that Chris Miller and I have worked really hard on over the last 3 years, is making sure that every student who's showing a sliver of interest or chops to take IM1, because the ideal, if you want to take calc in high school, is that you've taken integrated math 1 in 8th grade. So you're taking pre-calc as a junior, you're taking calc as a senior. If you don't take integrated math 1 as an 8th grade, you're taking pre-calc as a senior. Which
IM1 is an elective at the 8th grade level, correct?
Correct. Yep, exactly. So it really starts with 8th grade, but constantly watching those demographics, and know it's something that I keep my finger on, right? As a woman in STEM, as a woman who has a degree in biology and sat in a 100-person lecture hall in a university where 85% of the people in there were male and I was 15 of the girls, it's something near and dear to my heart. Both both in terms of female and our linguistically and culturally diverse students, making sure that our students of Latin American heritage understand that these advanced math courses are for them as well as everybody else.
I'm asking it just sort of as a measure. I'm not going to ask you to go back in the years, but I'm just curious where we are now, and maybe we can just keep track of that.
Sure, yeah, and I have the
absolutely right on.
spreadsheets. I'd be happy to, because it's something I compile and kind of pay attention to. Yeah, and when I start to see little slips, I'm like, why is this happening? What's,
Just curious. Thank you.
I move that we adopt, thank you, the pre-calc textbook that was selected by our team.
And I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0 in favor. And moving on to LCAP, Director Fender.
Yeah, I'll just say I'm sure that Todd Sheehy is very sad to see his pre-calculus book from 1997 is going to be deemed obsolete. So just to make that joke. Yeah, so we're in full-on LCAP season. I'm on what I call the LCAP Roadshow. I'm going to visit with all of our governance councils, our staff meetings, our ELACs. Chris will be talking with the DLAC in order to get input. And so that's what we're here to do tonight. So I'm going to fly through these slides pretty quickly. There's information in your packet. There's more there than I have time to fully present tonight because I want to make sure that we have the bulk of our time for you to answer, ask any questions or to provide input as the school board. So let's go ahead. I have this. We'll go to the next slide. So just a little reminder about our vision and value statements, right? This is where it all starts. This is what we want to constantly reflect on and making sure that we're holding ourselves accountable for our vision and values. So, this is something that I keep on my desk, hidden, on the wall, that we refer to and that we think about when we're doing our strategic planning. Reminding ourselves that the LCAP is the school district version of a strategic plan. And so we want to make sure, if this is our vision, if this is where we want to be, this is how we want to treat students, this is what we're getting kids ready for, our strategic plan needs to reflect that. English and Spanish, as all of our documents are. A little reminder that the LCAP is the comprehensive strategic planning tool, and the part that we're doing right now is this educational partner. I'm super proud to say this year more than ever I'm visiting with student groups. I visited with all of our English learners at the junior high, all of our students with disabilities, be finishing up with our students with disabilities at the high school tomorrow, visiting in class. English language learners, our Marcy Becerra students. That's not something I've been able to do for the last 2 years, is go in and listen to kids. And basically what I say is, I'm that adult you see walking around in classrooms, but I'm here to hear what's working, what's not, and how do we make it better. So those are the prompts that I give the kids, is what's working for you and your family in our school, either now or before. You'd be sad to see it go away, and what's not working. And they have to write down on sticky notes for me, and then I go back and put that on the notes that then the district leadership team reviews together. So those get printed out from each meeting, and we look at that information. So students are an important part of this, staff, parents, community engagement. It's also the accountability and compliance document, right? What we bring to you in June will be, it's getting a little better. I used to always say 200 pages. It's less than that now. I think it's down to about 150 pages, maybe, with the template. So it does include a lot of accountability and compliance in terms of data and fiscal, financial matching up. Are we spending our money where we say that we need to be? So those two things ride together. So a little bit of a timeline. We are there in the yellow arrow. The survey that we're using, we're not doing a separate LCAP survey, right? We've done a lot of surveying, and so we're using the Youth Truth survey data. So you'll see that survey data is what we're really relying on instead of doing something separate. We survey students, families, and our staff. And it's nice that so many districts in the county are using Youth Truth that we now have comparable data. We can compare ourselves to Sonoma County. So it's not just Erin's little LCAP survey on a Google form, and I hope I did the questions correctly because I'm not a qualitative statistician, but it's really nice to be able to use the Youth Truth data that all of our our groups, students, parents, students, staff, and parents take, and then to do some looking at what other folks in the county, and really it's a state and national survey too. So. And I know Diane's getting ready to do a deeper dive on the Youth Truth data, so it's been fun. Yeah, we've been kind of nerding out a little bit talking about Youth Truth data, like, did you see this in it? And, so that's what the survey means. So we'll do some revisions through the month of May. We'll get busy on the actual template and writing and updating. Remember, we're in year 2 of a 3-year plan, so probably won't see massive changes, hopefully, but working closely with the business office to make sure that our actions and services are in alignment with our budget, and then bring you forward in the 2 meetings in June, first in discussion and then approval. So we have 3 big goals: rigor, relevance, and relationships. So I call this my Super Reader's Digest version of our goals, actions, and services. So the rigor goal is really focused on the academic piece, making sure that we're in alignment with the standards and framework, keeping true to some of that PBL language about communication, collaboration, thinking critically. In your board packet, we included the portrait of a graduate, and making sure that we're, helping students not only to be academic scholars, but that they're empathetic and that they're collaborative and that they communicate well with others. So that's an important part of this too, and you can see that show through in the way we we write our LCAP. So rigor, the second one is relevance, that learning and instruction are active, student-centered, based in inquiry, and connected to the world outside of school. Tonight was a great representation of one of the marquee projects of that, the junior academic internship. I think it's worth pointing out the promoting bilingualism for all students. You saw a great presentation from our Spanish teachers earlier in the school year, and creating that K-12 continuum is really important, and fostering that. They'll be doing some summer work to articulate, especially at the elementary, articulating the K-5 program, and then starting to do a little better job of articulating into the junior high in the fall is the job. So our Spanish teachers over the summer are going to spend some time working together. Big picture learning at Marcy Becerra is really taking off. I think we're going to have an update before the end of the school year for you on big picture learning. We have some things to celebrate and some innovation. So hopefully either in May and or June, that'll come forward. And the last big goal around community, of course, celebrating the diversity that our community has. As Trustee Lopez said earlier, we live in a wonderful place, and we want to make sure that we celebrate all of our families and their community cultural wealth, and that their voices are not only heard, but really drive a lot of what we do and how we serve our community. So I'm flying through this. There's a sheet that looks like this. Obviously, this isn't meant for a slide. It's a handout, right? So this is a busy slide. This is my version of the infographic for this year. It's better looked at either on screen or printed out. So this is a handout, not meant to be looked at on slides. A few things I want to highlight, though, here that I did capture in the slides. We talked a little bit about this when I did the A to G grant plan, that we're #1 in the county now for the A to G completion rate of 71% of all of our students, 65% of our Latinos, with the Sonoma County average being down at 33%. So that is worth celebrating. Rigor relevance relationships is working. Also, the CTE pathway completion, 40% of the students at the high school complete a CTE pathway. And as noted on here, we have 16 CTE courses. In a school that serves just over 500 kids, having 16 CTE courses and 5 CTE pathways, that's what a 2,000 kid high school usually operates. So that's something to be really proud of. And again, one of our marquee programs, the ag program that Annie's a part of. Those two combined, that kids are completing A to G and CTE, that it's not an either or prospect for our kids, right? That we really want to help support all kids meet the A to G requirements and CTE. You see in a lot of comprehensive high schools, that becomes an either or, right? There's either the CTE kids or the college-bound kids, and that's not what we're creating at Healdsburg High. It's an and. It's a college and career. It's a CTE and A to G for us. So something to be proud of. #2 in the county for the number of students that have earned a 3 or better on AP exams. So 26% of all kids at HHS have gotten a 3 or better on an AP exam. It's only 18% in the state of California. So that's something to be celebrated. We offer 18 advanced placement courses. 18. That's a lot. That's on this sheet too. So we figured out ways to kind of rotate things and offer, again, what most large comprehensive high schools would offer. Worth noting, going back to the calculus, I don't know if you picked it up, I didn't realize it was so low. I knew it wasn't every school, but only about half the high schools in the nation offer AP Calc, which I didn't really realize. Yeah, only half of the high schools in the nation offer AP Calc, yeah. And it's just, we've had it for almost 30 years. I checked in with Mikey from about it. How long have we had Calc? And then #4 in the county for the state seal of biliteracy. So again, something we're celebrating. I keep hitting my computer instead of this. Okay. So what we want to dive in on here are your input on strengths. Same question to you. What's working, what's not, right? What would you be sad if it goes away? And really more focused on opportunities for growth, right? As you visit our schools, as you talk to our community members, what are you hearing? What do you know in your heart from being at these meetings that we need to pay attention to? So just kind of open the floor to discussion. it's recording, so it's something I'm not going to worry about taking notes here, so we can review it at another time.
So you have your pen ready?
Yeah.
Well, I think definitely with the offerings at the Healdsburg High School is a huge strength. I mean, and you're right. What we offer there is just, even in some of the big high schools, it doesn't happen. So really proud of all of the offerings and all the opportunities we give to our students. So that's huge. And it's nice to see that we're kind of the leaders in the county in a lot of those areas. So those are definite strengths.
I totally agree. And along those lines, I mean, I think with the 7-period day at the junior high, which is newer than the 7-period day at the high school, I'd love to see more happening at the junior high. I mean, as kids get ready for high school, we'd put a lot of focus on the high school, and rightly so. Lots of things, wonderful things happening, and maybe there could be ways to push more of that down into the junior high and broaden things there. I mean, I know it's different age group, et cetera, but I know you did talk about articulation of Spanish, and I know that's something we need to do a lot better at the junior high level and bridging up to high school.
Sounds good.
But I mean, just it's a really vague thing. And I know we have expanded more offerings, more electives, et cetera there, but I do think there's opportunities to do more.
Mm-hmm. Andy, I'm sure I'd love to hear from student trustee.
Well, I already we had
time.
You came to the ASB meeting, so I felt like I already talked, but I don't know. I really think it's awesome that you were saying like the AP courses at the same time as CTE courses. Both my parents went to Healdsburg High School, and we've talked a bunch of times, like, both, like, my mom was an AP kid, and she was like, man, ag is so cool, but, like, I never was able to take those courses, and, like, my dad was not an AP kid, he was an ag kid, and he was like, he never took AP classes because he was always an ag, and he couldn't, and I don't know if he would, but I think he totally could. But anyway, it just is super cool, like, I've done both. And it never was like a struggle or anything. It just was like I requested both classes and I automatically got put in both classes. So I think that's something we're doing super well.
I would just comment, strengths, our library program, I think, is outstanding. Libraries tended to disappear over time, and we've held on to ours and maintained them in a positive strength. We've heard the AP and the AG and the CTE, the SEL. I've taken a look at that and ensuring that our staff, all of our staff, understands the social emotional part in helping our kids deal with social emotional learning. I don't know how to say it. And then the other piece is, and I can't remember what we call it, but the equity professional development, the ethnic studies that the Acosta group is doing, I think is very strong, and I appreciate that. And I'm hoping that'll go into challenges, but how do we get more staff involved in that?
Yeah.
Other strengths from?
Yeah, I think having 3 full-time bilingual outreach coordinators is the strength of the district, I think. When we're talking about relationships, like having bilingual outreach coordinators, being able to communicate with our families and being able to share Zumba on Saturdays or being able to share all these events that are happening with our district. And then again, like the PICA program for parents too, and the fact that we have a lot. I'm looking right here. We have 45 HJH and 44 elementary parents participating in PICA. That's huge. So, yeah, we should be celebrating those accomplishments.
Yeah, and I'll say, down on the bottom of that infographic, the ongoing district priorities, Mike, to your point, continuing to work on embedding social emotional learning throughout all of our classrooms and our day. That's kind of down towards the bottom in relationships, and also continuing to prioritize and strengthen relationships between staff and families and staff and students is an important part. So, yeah, there's we're good at some things and we're working on some things as well. So feel free to suggest things that you feel like we need to put more energy in as well, opportunities for growth.
Another celebration is that all of our students are now getting project-based learning. I mean, that's huge in my opinion, so super happy about that.
Erin, based on what you were just saying too, I would like to see, again, not sure about the how, but more SEL focus at secondary and high school in particular. Mental health issues, teens, et cetera. And hopefully our MTSS strategy will help with that. I know this is already in there, but math, continued focus on math. Mm-hmm. We've seen some great growth, but we have a ways to go for sure.
Yeah, and in terms of next steps or growth, I still would like to see the gap not be so wide between the Latino students and all students. That's still a concern of mine. And again, the long-term EL classification, I'd like that number to lessen, to decrease. So those are areas to work on.
Yeah, agreed. And in the rigor column there, we have English learner progress as an important part of.
Mm-hmm. And I think a big part of that, as we build this next year, the ELD master plan, I think will give us some oomph, if you will, as we begin to build it.
We lean into that. Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, I really want us to focus more energies or provide more resources to make sure that we have all of our students as proficient readers by the time they get to third grade. So really providing that strong tier 1 instruction so that we don't need intervention, and that we're really doing preventative work and giving good, really strong tier 1 instruction.
Yeah, I would add, I think, sound like a broken record. I would add, we have here under highlights the articulation of the K through 12 Spanish language program. And I would, again, say include the EL students who are currently not receiving or not part of that program.
Yep.
And the piece that, you've heard me say this before, is equity, is our staff engaging in learning. I used Acosta Group as the trainer, if that's the right word. I'm not sure that training is the right word, but the educator, to bring that to all of our staff, and not just our certificated staff, our classified as well, to have those conversations and to see our goal and our board policies regarding equity and anti-institutionalized racism to be discussed, to be out there, to be called out, lack of a better word, and not in a bad way, but just to have that open discussion so we can see what there is and what's around us. Not just adults, but kids as well. So
we had an Ethnic Studies Institute on Monday evening, and we were talking about that. We've got about 10% of the teaching staff who are part of this, what I'm calling the among the willing, right? The early adopters. And we were having that discussion as a group about how do we move from the early adopters among the willing to all staff, right? And what is their role? And they feel they have a role, which is really great, right? It's one thing for me as a CNI director to say, all right, when do we go from among the willing to all in, where this isn't a choice anymore? And they think I've got some ideas. We're going to be talking with Carlos and Curtis about that over the next month, about how to move from among the willing to among all. And I think that the staff that have been a part of the training for the last, 18 months, 2 years, are excited to be the ambassadors. And as we've talked about, teachers teaching teachers is always the best. And as we move into that next phase, I think they're excited to be kind of the holders of the flame and to help their colleagues, their friends in the district move into the landscape of ethnic studies for all.
Right, and I think we can have long discussions, and we have, it's not a, six session training. It's an ongoing, quite honestly, it's a lifetime, but,
Yeah.
And I would like to see us move, into that and broaden it, obviously, and you're saying exactly what I'd like to hear you say, and I'd really like to see some action on that, and there are ways we can do that, and I think we need to, sometimes we just need to step forward and say, this is where we're going. Because we have great staff. We just have to, our last board meeting, DLD training or workshop, I guess it was called, study session. It is around, will and skill, but it's also what's your intent? What is your intent here? And what is our intent as educators in this district? Quite honestly, in our own lives, but we won't get too deep into that right now. Thank you.
The other thing I'd like to see is, as part of that equity work, is really, Marzano says that the greatest equity work is having guaranteed viable curriculum. And so really having those priority standards identified, having those pacing guides so that every student is getting the same, having the same expectations, same learning opportunities, having those common formative assessments, common rubrics, so that we can really have some powerful professional learning communities discussing and analyzing student work and teachers collaborating to improve instruction and improve student learning ultimately. So I'd like to see that district-wide to address really our equity work.
I'm going to repeat what Trustee Del Rey said at our study session. What's it called? And that is, we saw the numbers, and our numbers look very strong compared to other financial numbers, look strong compared to others. So with those resources, it is my hope. And again, I don't know how do I put this in words for the LCAP, but we should focus those resources on the learning of our kids, but also on, quite honestly, professional development and what areas need to be done. So how you put that in there or whatever, but I mean, I absolutely agree with her. It's like we look at our numbers. My hope and my, I guess, goal, if that's the right word, and my intent is that we become an esteemed school district. And again, with the intent, willingness, and the skills of our staff, all staff, I think we can get there. And I don't think it's going to take us long once we take that step forward and get into the milieu, if you will.
Yeah, agreed. And that's always been something I think that Superintendent Van Hovel and I mean, we've been to a lot of schools in our years, traveling around and seeing and we want to be one of the schools, one of the school districts that people come from New York, they come from Illinois to come see, what's going on in Healdsburg. And, we're starting to see it in some of that marquee data that I shared earlier. So I know we have some other things to get through. The thing that I always say is, I'm one of those folks, as soon as the meeting ends, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have said this. So please feel free to email me or stop by the district office and have a conversation. It's an ongoing process, right? This takes months, years. So don't think that, this is your one LCAP shot and this is it. So if you think of something, feel free to email me or stop by so we can have a conversation. And I say that to, the students and staff that I visit with as well, that please continue the conversation so we can continue to get better.
And Erin, I think I would ask, if possible, not to add more to your plate, but if we could have a summary of what are the opportunities of growth that the parents are seeing in the district.
Yeah, that'll be
the
in the LCAP. So there's a section in the LCAP where you have to summarize. Now they're calling it the educational partners input. So there'll be an area in the LCAP. But as soon as I get that part done, I could send it to the trustees as part of a board update. So it's highlighted a little bit more and it's not just buried in that gigantic document. So yeah, happy to do that.
That would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Any final comments, questions, input? Thank you.
Thank you.
Erin.
Sorry about the T-shirt. I thought about bringing a jacket to put on, and then I was I'm
thank
going to
you.
represent.
It's
his
I
birthday,
had been
right?
informed.
And I hope this is on, and we're thinking about you, Mr. McDowell.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
He's a great man, a great teacher. 11.3A, we have a public hearing
So you need to technically open the public hearing.
Public hearing is now open.
Any public comments regarding CSEA reopeners? No public comments. We can close the.
Hearing none. Hearing is closed. 13.3B, the school district and the CSEA contract reopeners for 2022-23.
So included in your packet, you have the letter from both the district and CSEA outlining that we will be negotiating benefits and salary in May. And those are the only two items that will be bargained.
And Chris, this is a reopener versus the openers.
This isn't the whole contract. It's just.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I move to approve the reopeners.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carries 5-0. Okay, 11.3C, final action on a resolution and decision not to reemploy certificate employees for the 2022 school year. Ms. Whitcomb, there you are.
So before you is Resolution 2215. As you know, prior to March 15th, we had the previous resolution with a fairly long list of various sections and things to reduce or eliminate. This resolution basically addresses the final end result of what teacher is going to unfortunately receive a notice prior to May 15th. And yeah, so we're down to
one person is affected. Yeah.
Are there any questions, comments? Do we have a motion for this resolution?
I move to approve final action on resolution and decision not to reemploy certificated employees for the 22-23 school year.
Do we have a second? Trustee Del Rey, this is a resolution. Please do the roll call.
Trustee Peterson?
Aye.
Trustee Romo Flores?
Aye.
Trustee Del Rey? Trustee Lopez?
Aye.
President Potmusel?
Aye.
Thank you.
11.3D, final action on resolution decision not to reemploy classified employees for the 2022-2023 school year.
All right, so this resolution 2216, again, like our meeting previously, this is kind of a newer process for us with classified. Unfortunately, having to do the preliminary notice by March 15th, which was provided to all these staff, and then now having to provide them with final notice. And these are hours reductions. It's not an elimination. It's an elimination of, I want to say it's an hour and a half per person, per employee. And I just, speaking transparently, it's a hard thing, teachers or classified, particularly classified for me. I've always been a classified person, and having them here tonight made it a little harder too. So it's an unfortunate thing, but it's something that needs to be done to kind of make things balanced in terms of their duties.
Is there a reason it doesn't specify on here that it's an hourly reduction and
This
looks
is
like it's a like?
This is the
Blanket.
legal the verbiage that we get from legal. And I would imagine that in subsequent years they'll change and update things. This is the first time people are having to go through this process.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is worth mentioning we will have more a similar resolution for COVID funded, categorically funded classified positions coming up next month. So,
And
yeah.
I have to say I'm a little surprised about this one, only because we were talking about all the hours they're spending doing work for other districts and whatnot. And
Different people.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank
This
you.
is
Just the way
specifically
the
the
work.
special needs drivers, and it's
Yeah.
specifically tied to their routes for like the non-public school driving.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I move that we approve this resolution. I'm scrolling back up. 2216.
Aye. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Trustee Peterson,
Aye.
Trustee Romo Flores,
Aye.
Trustee Del Rey, Trustee Lopez,
Aye.
President Potmuscle.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And 11.4, business, Healdsburg Future Farmers Country Fair.
So we typically participate in the annual Twilight Parade at the FFA Country Fair. This year will be a little different. I am not going to be there. My son, running track in college, qualified for nationals in Alabama.
Wow.
So I will be in
That's awesome.
Alabama, where I've never been before, watching him run track. So you're on your own.
We need a truck.
But we have Karen is already ordering bracelets and stickers and stuff to hand out, some swag to give to kids in the. It's always the funnest part, right? With the little ones that are out on the street, and then typically we have a vehicle. Is Jim around? You can't be there either. Yeah.
Oh, no.
You know, what is this in-person activities?
We've also done a green school bus, an electric school bus in the past, so that's a possibility. Yeah.
I will say, although it's not open air.
Well, let me ask the question first. Do we want to participate? Does the rest of the board want to participate? Annie's going to be on her FFA float, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm driving a tractor, but
Yeah.
I'll support you guys. And I think it's fun.
So it would be Rose and you three.
Including parent participation, teacher participation.
Well, we typically just do the board.
We just sit in a truck.
Yeah. So we could widen it somehow if we want to.
Put a trailer.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a community event. Like, why not bring in the community to participate? Are other not other organizations, but other groups within the school participating in different ways?
You know, I don't know off the top of my head who is. Typically the band's in it. Yeah, Rose is in, which is a Brown Act violation. But I don't know off the top of my head. We've had different things. So FFA obviously will be in it. The band usually is marching in it. There may be someone from Mile Club. That's happened in the past. The junior high has had groups in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if they also do. So, yeah, there's various clubs.
I mean, it's a long parade. It's not over in 10 minutes.
It's not that long.
A little more than 10.
Yeah.
Well, I personally like to watch our kids.
I know.
I always feel like
Yeah.
I'm, when
I'm honestly, I prefer to watch. I'm not opposed
do
to
too.
not participating, and I'm not sure how many people are super excited to see the superintendent walking around. So
or the board,
Yeah.
right?
Or the
So
board.
it's
I didn't want to say
like,
that.
I'd rather
yeah.
watch the community and our kids and cheer them on.
But we could certainly talk about maybe there's a way to, if you would like to participate, to walk with one of the student groups that are out there, or even be on the ag float. You know.
Yeah, y'all are welcome.
So, yeah.
That
So we
seems
can
better.
explore some opportunities that way and let you know.
I think the board president can represent all of us, just join a group.
We could make him walk alone. Yeah.
You could carry a sign that said board.
My thing is, I always appreciate it because we were in the beginning of the parade, which is like elected officials and stuff. So you could get there in the end to see the Oaxacan dancers and the dancing horses. Those are my favorites.
Yeah.
But yeah. But anyway, so we can explore opportunities to maybe participate with one of our already existing floats. Okay.
Early on.
Awesome.
Get it up.
At the beginning. Yeah. FFAs are at the beginning too.
Right.
Okay. Sounds good. And I'll cheer you on for,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's like at the Gulf. So it's actually Floribama, I've been told, because it's real close to Florida. I don't know. So good shrimp. Yeah. Yeah, it's.
That's true.
No, it's just a discussion. So now we're on to the Emergency Assembly Bill 361.
So this says action.
This is action. This is just, should we need it? And let's hope we don't.
No, excuse me. The Healdsburg Future Farmers Country Fair, action.
Action.
Don't know.
It sounds like we're tabling it. Do we have a motion to table?
I move to table it.
Second?
Do we have a second?
No, it says action.
It does say action. I don't think it requires a vote. Yeah. It's a typo. Yeah. It's all good.
I apologize to all the public that's watching. It's a discussion
It
item.
is almost 9:00.
And we
Yeah.
did discuss. Okay, so moving on to B, review emergency.
To be clear, that's Rose.
Yeah.
Maybe. Are you still there?
So this is the Zoom provision to allow us to be able to do virtual should we want to or need to because of COVID. So we should, I think, continue to vote on this item until it's not a possibility.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you. And disposal of surplus property, resolution 2219.
This is the fairly frequent, we have old things we need to get rid of. Yeah.
I have a question on this. I noticed the list was a lot of the exercise equipment.
It's very old.
No,
Yeah.
my question is,
Yeah.
where is it going? My thought was like, are we letting kids take that? I mean, I can imagine students.
There's a
there, I wish I
liability
had
to
a
handing out
rack or
exercise
whatever.
equipment. We're not going to hand out exercise equipment just because of liability reasons.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and some of it's not, some of it's in disrepair.
Oh, right, you throw
Yeah.
that out. But
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I was
So.
hoping we could make good use of it, but I understand the
Yeah.
liability piece. Okay.
Yeah. Well intentioned.
Do we have a motion regarding resolution 2219?
I move to approve resolution 2219.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Oh, it's a resolution. Please do the roll call.
Trustee Peterson,
Aye.
Trustee Romo Flores,
Aye.
Trustee Del Rey, Trustee Lopez,
Aye.
President Potmaso.
Aye.
Thank you.
And 11.4D, consideration of resolution 2220, providing for the issuance sale of 2022 general obligation refunding bonds.
So this is an interesting, we have an opportunity through our bond advisor, ISM Investors, who was approached by a private bank looking for extremely safe investment opportunities to refinance it's the bonds from Measure D, right, Debbie, from 2016. So we have an opportunity to refinance bonds at dramatically lower rates than what the market rate currently is. 14, excuse me. Okay, so that was it's not I forget what the measure was. It's the 2014 bonds. At any rate, so it's dramatically below current market bond rates. We anticipate the savings overall for the taxpayers of Healdsburg to be approximately $1.7 million. So we, of course, jumped at it. He called me in spring break, and thankfully I took the call, and here we are. So we have this item, and then the next we have to do, we adjourn the regular meeting and do a special meeting. So, Debbie, anything to add? Okay, this is a resolution.
So these are bonds we haven't yet sold.
We're refinancing them. So they're bonds that are sold. This is a refinancing. Yeah,
And then a new party will hold the bonds.
correct.
Wow.
It was really interesting. So because it's a private bank, it's all being done privately. We don't have to go back to Moody's to get re-rated and all that kind of thing. So it really circumvented a lot of. You'll recall, it was about a year ago, we were going to. Was it this year already? Okay, it was September. We were going to refinance bonds, and then the market
We
tanked.
pulled it back,
Yeah,
yeah.
because the bond market went really bad, which is kind of a precursor of inflation coming on. So we didn't go through with it, but since this is basically this private entity has been looking for safe public school districts in communities that are well funded to be able to have a safe investment for their funds. So
And who
Yeah.
pays the underwriter fees? ISM's money.
no, I think that's all underwritten in the cost of the refi.
It's all part of it.
yeah,
And we're still
yeah.
saving.
1.7, yeah.
Well, that's a no-brainer then.
Yeah.
So I move to approve the resolution number 2220, providing for the issuance and sale of 2022 general obligation refunding bonds.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, and it's a resolution.
All right. Trustee Peterson?
Aye.
Trustee Romo Flores?
Aye.
Trustee Del Rey?
Aye.
Trustee Lopez?
Aye.
And President Potmusel.
Aye.
Thank you.
This time, I'd like to adjourn the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. I'd like to convene the regular meeting of the Healdsburg School Facilities Financing Authority. I guess a roll call. We have Trustee Peterson, we have Trustee Romo Flores, we have Trustee Del Rey, we have Trustee Lopez, and we have Trustee Potmusel. Do we have any public comments? Seeing none. New business.
So this is along with the last item that we did in our regular meeting. This is about the escrow agreements in connection with the issuance of the school bonds and this refinancing. So basically the next step in the refinance.
We need a motion.
We need a motion, and it's a resolution as well.
Well, I move to approve the resolution number 2221, authorizing the execution and delivery by the authority of one or more escrow agreements in connection with the issuance of Healdsburg Unified School District general obligation refunding bonds and authorizing the execution of necessary documents and certificates and related actions in connection therewith.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry.
I did the last one, so I wanted to give
That's
someone
okay.
an opportunity.
It's a roll call, please.
Trustee Peterson?
Aye.
Trustee Romo Flores?
Aye.
Trustee Del Rey?
Aye.
Trustee Lopez?
Aye.
And President Potmusel.
Aye.
Thank you.
And are there any matters not appearing on the agenda related to the School Facilities Financing Authority? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
You can convene to the regular meeting and take any comments from the Board of Trustees
Say that again?
at the end.
Come back to the regular.
You could go back, convene, and let anybody have any.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
I was going to convene.
Yeah.
I was convening the regular board. Thank you. It's like, okay, are there any board trustees' reports or requests for information?
I think Crystal and I would like to meet with you about school lunches.
Okay.
Okay.
Debbie can join us. Not now. Yeah.
Not this evening.
Yeah.
So they'll set up a meeting to meet.
Yeah.
with trustees. Okay.
No. Yeah.
I don't know. In the cafeteria.
Yeah. Just not today.
Are there any other reports, comments, or requests from
I have an exciting announcement. Yesterday I was privileged enough to walk, well, actually drove around, but visit two distinguished volunteers in the schools, both of whom are going to be receiving the city's Maurice Sparks Volunteer of the Year Award. So they were co-winners this year. It's not always co-winners, but first Martha Brooks, who has been active in the Booster Club since her son James, who is a teacher at Calico, was in high school. And she said it's been 37 years that she's been doing this. Her grandkids are now graduating. So she has been very active in the Booster Club for all these years, supporting and raising money for athletics in our schools, which has been fantastic. So she's going to be recognized. And then Greta Messick, who is our librarian at HES. I was approached by Cindy Beth, asked because she was part of the nomination process, and Greta quickly came to mind. Greta does so much above and beyond her library work to promote literacy and equity in our schools, and especially working with the Latino community. Even to the point of taking on a service dog in her own home. Like, she went and got certified, got this dog so that kids can read to the dog in the library. And it's amazing. Bosco is magic for kids in reading. So
Bosco should have been nominated.
Bosco should have been part of it. So they both are going to be recognized on May the 2nd here where we are at City Hall at 6 o'clock. So it'll be great for those of us who can make it to be here. And then there's a reception at the Senior Center following. But we went and surprised them yesterday and kind of ambushed them and told them they were winning. And neither of them had any idea. And both of them are not really into attention, as you would imagine, since they're so into volunteering. So a lot of fun to be able to recognize them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So now we can say our award-winning librarian.
Yes.
So they had a staff meeting for LCAP input last night right after that. So we got to celebrate her a little bit more. And yeah.
That's great. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Nice second. Any other comments?
I would just add, I think, we're speaking about Greta right now. She is also helping with a book swap happening on April 30th. So there's a Dia del Niño Children's Day celebration happening at the community center in partnership with the Healdsburg Unified School District, Corazon Healdsburg, the Rotary Club, and City of Healdsburg Community Services. So obviously the bros, you're invited. I think she's the only one watching right now, but any family is invited to that. And Greta and Lindsay Rose, who's a Spanish teacher at Fitch Mountain, have been very involved in the planning process as well. So at the Healdsburg Community Center from 9 to noon on April 30th.
Did you mention the Education Foundation that raised the money to buy the books?
I did not mention them. Do you?
No, well,
you know,
I just know that they have put out the word and said, please, we want to raise money to buy books for the kids at each grade level. Each grade level has a certain book, which I think is great. So every kid has a book, which is outstanding. So congratulations to HEF and the other organizations as well.
And the Healdsburg Running Company as well, where we partnered up with them. And so there's a 5K run happening before the celebration, and any student, I think they're working with the schools individually, but any student who can afford running shoes, will be provided a free pair of running shoes. So it's really cool. And anyone who wants to participate in the 5K and can afford the cost of registration, we're helping with that. So we have scholarships available.
Skip is great. Yep.
No, that's great. Well, and just a great example of a community all coming together, which is outstanding. Any other great comments, news, or requests? Outstanding. We do not need to go to the closed session. We're done. Next meeting is Wednesday, May 18th, here at the City Hall.